Hi, Samuel. Welcome from the Mentors Capital family. Thank you for making time for joining us today. Why don't you begin by quickly telling us something about yourself?
Sure, Anand. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. Really looking forward to connecting with some students and helping out as much as I can. Just to quickly summarize, my journey so far, and to introduce myself. So my name is Samuel. I'm 25 years old, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in business analytics at UBC. So I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, followed by which I did an MBA back in India. After that, I worked at Deloitte USA for 2 years as a data scientist in the risk and financial advisory. And after 2 years at Deloitte, I've moved to Vancouver to pursue my master's here.
All right. Fascinating journey. One that actually does raise a lot of interesting questions. But let me start with probably the most obvious one, which is help us understand the field of data analytics, because we I think the popular perception is that this is one field that is very, very quant heavy, right? It's one that for one to do exceedingly well in, the popular perception is that you need to be good at math. How true is that perception, and how true is that of you?
For sure, I would say to a certain extent that is true. Data analytics is ultimately, you are working with data, and it to a certain extent you would say that it is quant heavy. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is solve business problems, right? And when you're talking and interacting with leaders across the organization who have these problems that need to be solved, you need to convey your solutions across in the form of a cohesive story. And for that, you need to be able to understand the business side of things. You need to have good communication skills. So ultimately, data analytics, I'd say, is a huge field. And even within the field, there are so many different, there's data engineering, there's data analytics, there are data scientists, there are machine learning engineers who are, that's all the way in the other end of the spectrum, who are extremely quant heavy into computer science. So there's a lot going on, and I think there's a place for everybody who's interested with working with data in this field.
All right. So your perspective is that you need to know as much about business as you need to be, good at quant, is what you're saying. But how about being good at programming? Because I know that's also part of being quantitative in nature, in thought and aptitude. But how much of how good do you need to be with software? Because clearly you need to know how to use Python and R and some of these different programs. So what's your position on that?
Again, I think it really depends on, honestly, practically it depends on which team you're going to work for, the kind of tools and technologies that team is working with. But I think, if you were to broadly talk about what kind of technologies a typical analytics professional would use, then sure, yeah, it's, Python, R, Excel, honestly, the fundamentals, then working with cool visualization tools like Power BI, Tableau. These are really popular tools that are used across the industry, and I'd say that they are like probably the basic ones that any analytics professional would be expected to know.
Okay, fair enough. And for one to start a study or a master's degree in analytics, how much prior experience does one need in this field? Because I mean, I'm intrigued because you're a mechanical engineer. You clearly had very little, interaction with software. I'm sure. So to make this switch into analytics, how much experience did you have to gain with regard to usage of software or usage of just work in the data analytics field?
Okay, so when you ask like how much experience do you need? Well, you don't need any experience, to be honest. But practically, experience always helps. Right. So there are people who are in my cohort right now who are fresh grads from non-technical backgrounds who studied other like economics and other fields, and they've come in without any experience and they can still pick up these skills. Right. At the same time, I've spent 2 years working in data, and I feel like I have a reasonable hold of some of the tools and technologies. So I feel like I'm in a good position. I'm reasonably comfortable working with these things and learning these concepts now.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't need any experience. You really don't need. All you need is curiosity and the commitment to actually spend time and learn these things. But having some experience definitely helps, for sure, no doubt about that.
Okay. Okay. Tell us about your first brush with data analytics, the first role that you had where you said you had a couple of years of experience. So tell us more about that.
Okay, my first brush with data analytics was actually during my undergrad. I heard about, this whole field and how it was growing. And at the time, I wasn't really connecting with mechanical engineering all that well. So I
Hmm.
was looking at alternatives and I was looking at what other things are out there. And I actually came across this random course online, and that was my first ever intro to data analytics. But in terms of the work that I did, I think during my MBA, I did like a 3-month internship at matrimony.com, which is a popular company back in India.
Right.
And in that company, I actually worked as like a BI consultant in the team. So
Okay.
they had, and it again, it was not a very technical role. It was mostly about understanding business needs. But I think that was like the first time I got hands on a little bit, and I really enjoyed that experience. And I think that's what kind of made me, I was sure at that point that this is what I wanted to do. So yeah.
Okay. Uh, in fact, that sort of explains partly, the choice of analytics and when and how it happened. But I still have to ask this. You're somebody who's, uh, you know, started off with mechanical engineering, then did an MBA, got into business management. I mean, the thought would be that you're looking to generalize. The thought is that you're trying to sort of take your career in a certain direction, and then again you change track, and then you move into you get into this program on data analytics. So is it a little bit of hit and trial at play in terms of your career choice, or was it was there more sort of was there a greater semblance of order through these choices?
Oh, for sure, it was all hit and trial. It makes sense right now. In retrospect, I can look back and I can connect the dots and I say, "Oh yeah, it makes sense."
Right.
But at the time, I just did what happened. And honestly, all of these engineering, I think a lot of people who might be watching this could relate that engineering is something that you end up doing straight after school. So it was something that was endorsed by my parents, and I also at the point never like I thought it was a good idea, so I went for it.
Yeah.
And during that period, I felt like, okay, maybe I can look at other options. Maybe mechanical engineering isn't for me and stuff. And then the MBA, again, it was just something that I went through some of the coursework about in some of these colleges, and it looked really fascinating. Seemed like something I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
At that time, I had no idea that I was going to be, diving this deep into analytics and stuff. Honestly, no clue.
Right.
But then, as I went through the experience, I learned so many things, and a lot of credit to the college that I studied in, the Great Lakes Institute of Management.
Yeah.
They really, I got to explore a lot of my strengths there. I got to apply analytics in every business domain there. Like
Mm,
whatever subject we were learning,
mm.
analytics was like fused into every subject that we were all the courses that we were taking.
Okay.
Right. So I think in that way, a lot of credit to the places that I've studied.
Okay. Okay. So what you're telling us is that at Great Lakes, you got a fair bit of exposure to the field of analytics and how it probably impinged on every other domain within management. Uh, but if that were indeed the case, why do you think you felt the need for another program or a master's degree in management? Because I mean, what was the thought behind you know doing this again?
Absolutely. So again, the MBA is not. I mean, we didn't have like an analytics major during my MBA.
Yeah.
It was just something that I pursued. It was taught in my courses, but I was taking courses on the side a little bit. I was reading books. I was watching random videos. I was taking online courses. I was trying to dive deeper into it because I realized I really enjoyed it.
Right.
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 During these 2 years when I was working, and I again fell deeper in love with the practice, I felt like I really wanted to go and maybe get a specialization in it, get a formal specialization in analytics.
Right.
But at the same time, I felt like a business analytics degree would be a better idea than going for like an extremely technical, like a data science degree, like a master's in data science or something like that. Instead of that, I felt like this business analytics degree really suited me based on like my management education as well as my interest in diving deeper into the analytics side of things. So it kind of fit really well. I probably say this decision to do the business analytics is probably the most thought out choice that I've made. compared to engineering and my management degree. But
Okay.
this one I really felt like it was the perfect fit at this point in my career,
Okay.
but entirely based on my interests and what I felt were my strengths.
Okay. Okay. Uh, okay. Just in very layman terms, because I know that data analytics is one of those careers which everybody's excited about, and there is plenty of knowledge that you can find on the internet. But let's dumb it down a little, right? So let's say we don't understand what the field of data analytics is all about, or at least the kind of roles that one could get into. So maybe what I would want you to do is tell us what are the career choices, or what are the kind of roles that one could get in data analytics without a master's in this field, and how does that evolve once you've completed your master's, right? So what newer roles could you then look forward to, or is there a change at all?
Okay, so to be honest, like there are a lot of cliches, a lot of jargon about the field of data analytics. You just Google it and you'll find the same data-driven decision making
Yeah,
and all of that stuff. And I don't want to say the same stuff that you find on Google.
sure, sure.
Practically, what I've seen is a lot of my friends who graduated out of engineering college, they actually worked in boutique data analytics firms like Mu Sigma and Latent View in India,
Yeah,
and they were able to build careers in data science like straight out of engineering. And these are folks who've actually maybe not even studied computer science engineering, folks who studied electronics and
sure.
maybe even mechanical engineering, folks who've gone straight out of engineering, just got hands on from day one in analytics, and they've managed to build a career for themselves.
Sure.
So, and again, like we've been talking about, in this day and age, you can find anything online. So I'm not going to sit here and say that you, without this masters, you're not going to be able to have a career at all or anything like that. Absolutely not. You can build up your skill set through material you find online. You can get hands-on experience by working in these amazing companies and
Mhm.
building a career. What I feel like a degree does for you, like in most things, it makes things a little easier. And it gives you a great platform to network with people, to use the resources of a university to get good job opportunities, and also to interact with fantastic faculty who've been there and done that. Right. So I think that's the kind of platform that doing a degree, in analytics sort of helps you out with. And again, to talk again about the definition of data analytics and what are the different career options that you might have. Um, Again, entirely depends on your strengths, right? If you feel like you're a programmer who wants to start, who wants to continue and build a career writing out code, then there are amazing career opportunities there for you, right? You can become like a machine learning engineer, right? Somebody who builds ML models day in day out and works on the scalability and the efficiency of these models. So
Okay.
that's code all day, right? On the other end of the spectrum, we are saying businesses are using analytics to drive decision making. Again, cliche, but it's true, right? There's so much of data that all companies have, and to be able to leverage this data, get some actionable insights out of this, and actually be able to communicate those insights across to business leaders is like that skill is in huge demand right now in the marketplace, right? But for that, you need to like at least be open to understanding the business side of things. It's not just about sitting in your desk and writing code. You need to be able to have those conversations with business leaders to be able to understand what the problem is, to be able to break it down, use data to solve them. So you've got, that's kind of like the spectrum, I'd say. And based on your skills and based on your strengths, you're going to fall somewhere in that spectrum and you're going to build a career for yourself.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Fascinating. I think you've put this quite nicely in terms of the core skill set that one needs, and the kind of roles that depends on your strengths and where your aptitude lies. So while I understand, while we understand what the field of data science, and you've talked about this for some time now, there is this other aspect of your choice which also needs explaining, because I mean, so you've realized that data analytics is something that you like doing, that you want to skill yourself better in, and so felt the need for a master's degree. But why Canada, right? And why choose to do it abroad? And so help us understand why you thought studying data science in Canada at UBC was something that you would really help your career out, and how that would do so.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I'm not going to tell you that, you know, UBC is teaching me something that nobody on the planet can teach me. Absolutely not. Ultimately, I think anybody can attest to this. Anybody who's studying in any university in this day and age can attest to the fact that you can pick anything up in through courses that you find online. And honestly, any university on the planet houses more information than any student can absorb, to be honest. It's all about your curiosity, your level of commitment, and how much you're willing to learn. For me, at this point in time, it was I actually wanted to move abroad for a bit. I wanted to try new things. I wanted to see, okay, I always thought this would be a cool experience. And I feel like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone kind of forces you to grow a bit. And I feel like I've been in my comfort zone for far too long. So for me, from that aspect, I felt like it seemed like a good idea. And I did apply to a couple of colleges in like a couple of countries, and UBC was in fact the highest ranked and the best college that I got accepted into. So I guess that's why I decided to come to UBC. And also in terms of Canada as a country is extremely welcoming to international students, and you have like tons of job opportunities here as well. The employers in Canada are well aware of the fact that international students can work here. They have the authority to work here for a while after graduating. So all that is pretty smooth. I feel like getting job opportunities in Canada after graduating is, I'd say, fairly easier than maybe some other countries. So I think all of that kind of went into my decision process.
Okay. So the Master of Analytics program that you're currently pursuing is a 1-year program at UBC, isn't it?
Yes, at UBC, the MBAN program, the Masters in Business Analytics, is a 1-year program.
Okay. Okay. So which means that you get a 1-year work permit after your degree.
Okay, so that's where it's kind of it's a bit of a gray area, because apparently a lot of our alumni have also gotten 3-year work permits. So you're guaranteed a 1-year work permit after graduating, but apparently in some cases it goes up to like 3 years. People do end up getting 3 years, and there's no real like nobody's able to explain why it happens. Like we've spoken to some of the some faculty here, and they just say it's just a matter of luck maybe. But 1 to 3 years, and what happens during that period is people usually apply for their permanent residency, and then it usually gets fast tracked, and then they manage to just stay here and remain
Does
employed.
it depend on the field that you're applying from? Is it true that maybe from the field of analytics, Canada feels like, hey, let them stay a little longer. Maybe we could do with their services for a while longer. Could that be?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'd like to think so, but I don't think that would be the reason why. I think I'm honestly not sure. I don't want to give any incorrect
No, but
information.
my original question was, let's say hypothetically that it follows the letter of the law, which is that you get, a 1-year, work permit in Canada. Is that good enough time to find yourself, the job that you seek, and B, what happens when the visa expires? Because even if you are working at the end of a year's work, you're not going to have to come back to India. So did you factor those into consideration when you were applying?
See, for sure, like anybody who's going to be spending the kind of money to come here and pay fees and study, everyone wants to work and earn money and then at least pay off your tuition fee. So obviously that's everyone factors that into the decision making process. And I'll be honest, I did too. And so what happens here is that, okay, to answer the first part of your question, how likely is it that people find jobs within the first year of them staying here? Answer is very likely. Like from what I've seen from the alumni outcomes, it seems like even in the midst of the pandemic, UBC is one of the best universities in the whole of Canada, and it's like the best university, at least in British Columbia, right? So and Vancouver is now like it's growing immensely. There are tons of amazing companies that are in Vancouver, and I think job opportunities is not an issue at all for people here, and they end up getting employed easily within 6 months of graduating. I have not seen any. I may have to I think my alumni will have to keep me honest here, but from the people I've connected with, I think it doesn't seem to be an issue for them getting employed. And to answer the second half of your question, in the sense, if you don't get employed within that year, or you're worried about your permanent residency based on that, I think that the permanent residency application still will consider the points that you gain from doing a master's program in Canada. it still adds points to your PR candidacy, right? So I guess all of that plays a part in. And overall, I feel like the students who come to Canada are probably less likely to be forced out of the country and have to, head back home because of visa-related issues. I feel that is the most. I mean, Canada is probably the least likely place for that to happen.
Correct. I think the correct answer would be that even if even if your work permit does expire, then the employer then gives you or allows you to extend, the visa, or you would apply to extend your work permit beyond the year. Obviously taking your, also keeping your employer in the loop. Right? Okay, fair enough. Something striking that you said some time back was that, well, I applied not just to Canada, but a few other countries. So do you mind telling us which are the places you looked at for a career in analytics?
I actually looked at a couple of universities in the UK and Ireland.
Okay.
So I applied to a couple of universities in UK, and then I applied to a couple of universities in Ireland. So that's kind of, but I think all of this was like, I applied, and then eventually once I got UBC, at that point, the more people I was talking to, I felt like, okay, you know what, I think one, UBC is an amazing university, and two, I feel like Canada seems to be like a really good bet here.
Right.
It feels like a better idea. So.
Right. So Canada is better than UK in a sense, especially if it's a career in analytics.
I mean, I don't know if I can draw that kind of a blanket statement, but yeah, for me, I felt like I felt more, and also so the UK has another a 2-year post-study work permit that's now in play, right? But again, I just felt like it might take a little while for employers to get used to the fact that no students are authorized to work after graduating. I wasn't very sure of how that would be, but in Canada, I was sure. Like I knew that alumni were having good experiences here. That they were graduating, getting jobs immediately after graduating, and their experience was smooth. So I guess I just went with that.
Okay. Okay, let's spell it out for a newbie who's considering a master's in business analytics. What kind of what's a good GMAT score to get when it comes to applying to, let's say, the top 5 to 10 universities in Canada or anywhere else?
I didn't actually write the GMAT. I wrote the GRE.
Okay,
So I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay. So my GRE score was, I think, a 317
Okay.
or 318 or something. Yeah, in that range, I got around that.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you would know, like all of these universities look at your profile from the whole. No one's just looking at a GRE score. No one's just looking at your academics. But some universities might probably put a higher weightage to some of these criteria. You can always, like, I feel like you can offset some of your weaknesses by like, for example, my undergrad academics were actually pretty bad. So I felt like, okay, maybe, writing a good SOP, getting good letters of recommendation, and getting a decent GRE score would kind of offset that.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's how you should kind of look at your profile.
Okay, so look at it in entirety, and maybe add more in terms of work experience. But again, you also mentioned that there's enough and more to study and enough and more available in terms of online literature and courses and certifications, especially in the field of data analytics. Do employers and and postgraduate programs, do they give importance to these certifications and online courses, according to you?
See, if an employer looks at a certification on your resume, it's just something to ask you questions with, right? Like it's just to tell them, okay, you've put in that effort to get that certification, but ultimately they need to know that you know your stuff.
Right.
So employers are always going to ask you questions about what you know, to test your knowledge. So sure. I think certifications are cool, and I actually like getting certifications. I think that it's a nice way, especially after you put in the time. I think getting a certification is a nice way to kind of say, okay, cool, I put in the time, I learned it, and now I have something to show for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you're saying interesting. So you're saying that in most cases, one should look at certifications more as a way of putting it on the resume, formalizing it in a sense on your resume, rather than sort of giving you an extra edge. It at least puts it out there for an employer or for an interviewer, even admissions committee, that looks to interview at the, after your initial shortlist, at least something that stands out on your resume, right? Very, very interesting perspective. Were you saying something?
No, absolutely not. No. I
Yeah.
agree.
Right, right. So tell us more about, the program at UBC right now, because I mean we've been talking about way out in the future when you're working, but tell us about your experience now. I'm sure that studying in the UBC classroom must be different from anything else you've experienced before, especially as compared to MBA at Great Lakes.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think credit to UBC for pushing to, have online, I mean, in-person classes. They were like pretty aggressive about making sure that we'd have in-person classes.
Right.
And like while initially we thought it would be cool to have that flexibility of going online or in person. Right
Yeah.
now, I think all of us feel like it's a good thing that we've been like
Sure.
pushed into doing in person. It's a really nice experience to sit in class, and instead of taking Zoom classes and stuff like that. So that's a really nice experience that my entire cohort is going through right now.
Okay.
But yeah, apart from that, UBC is like it's a huge university. It's like a city in itself. It's like the first time I came in here, I was like wide-eyed, just looking everywhere, and it was immense. But yeah, but I will have to say this, like especially because you're saying that it's a big difference between doing an MBA in India. The biggest difference will only be the fact that in your classroom now you've got like internationals, like everyone's international and people come from diverse experiences. Whereas in India, you have like maybe at least in my class, it was like sort of similar experiences that we all came from. A lot of us were fresh grads. Maximum we had like 2 years of experience
Right.
in my program at Great. But apart from that, I really do feel like, in terms of the faculty, in terms of the infrastructure, the classrooms and all of that, maybe that's credit to Great Lakes and how good Great Lakes was. But, like I think it's pretty comparable, to be honest. Like, I think it's really good. Both of them were great. Um, but yeah, I think to be completely honest, I wouldn't say that, like Sauder is like miles ahead of Great Lakes or anything. I couldn't say that honestly. It's somewhere in terms of what the college gives you, it's actually comparable. But in
Sure.
terms of what you walk away from, I feel like because you're in the midst of so many people from different experiences, you're learning from their diverse experiences. You walk away with a little bit more when you're studying in an international classroom, an international cohort.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Does the MBAN also give you? I know it's a 1 year program. It's pretty short, and it must be fast paced as well. But does it give you enough time to sort of look at business in the Canadian context? Because I think that's something that you must be looking to gain out of this program, is not just to learn about analytics, but also to learn about analytics when applied to business in the Canadian context. So does the program at Sauder allow you to gain that sort of exposure, hands-on experience, at least with companies in Canada, businesses in Canada?
See, on the business side of things, I'd say that at least so far, like we've only been through like 2 periods so far. I'd say that the focus has mainly been on technical skills
Okay.
in the courses that we've had so far.
Okay.
But what I will say is the faculty who've been teaching us these technical skills, they always talk about their experiences in the Canadian business,
Sure.
right? The corporate experience they've had in the past. And
Sure.
they kind of give us an idea of how things work over here.
Hmm.
But naturally, you're not going to get the kind of insight that an MBA student would have about, the Canadian business. And I've also heard that maybe next year in a couple of the periods that we have following this, I think we are going to go into a little more, business heavy courses. So yeah, I think that's yet to come. I may not be able to comment on that.
Okay.
But yeah, I can definitely say that every technical course that we've had, the faculty has made sure that they bring in business applications and in a Canadian context as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. I know that you did not, I mean, have to make this choice because, I mean, having done a master's before, having done your MBA before, I mean, you were surely not looking at a 2 year program. But nonetheless, let's say that somebody is making that choice right now after bachelor's. Would it be better to do a 2 year master's program, or if in the absence of 2 year masters at UBC, would you consider some other program which is of that longer duration? Is there any benefit in pursuing a two year course other than the fact that the period of your work permit goes up?
Oh, that's definitely a big factor, the period of your work permit going up. But I would actually say I really enjoyed being a part of a 2-year program at Great Lakes. I feel like, when you're part of a 2-year program, I think it really gives you time to really absorb everything, and even it gives you enough time to look at outside sources on topics that you find particularly interested in the courses that you've taken.
Sure.
In a 1-year program, you may not have as much time to do that, but in terms of I think the 1-year program is really cool in terms of the outcome, right? Like literally within like 10 months, you're gonna be back. You're gonna be hunting for a job, right? And you'll still have like great career outcomes at the end of that.
Hmm.
So I think it's a very efficient program. It's 1 year, you're done in 10 months. You're out there looking for an internship, looking for jobs. It's efficient that way, but I feel like the experience for me was, I'd say it's probably better if you do a 2-year program that way. But I think most of the business analytics programs are 1-year programs from what I've seen in Canada. Yeah, most of them are 1-year programs.
Right. But absolutely right. Absolutely. I think the flexibility that you could get if you had the choice is to do a dual degree, is to do a degree in management, an MSc or a master's in management, and then sort of layer a specialized program in business analytics after that, right? So that makes up like the 2-year program. Obviously, the costs are a consideration, but all else being the same, as you're rightly saying, I think the experience does count. The exposure you get to a different country, I mean, 2 years as compared to one, just means that you're building yourself for more success, right? A greater chance of success, at least. So anyway, that's where I was sort of coming from. Okay, I think I'm all done with the bigger, larger questions that surround your journey and your motivations. So maybe I could rapid fire a couple of questions for you now. Um, Dream company.
Oh no, I shouldn't be answering this stuff, dude. I have to sit for recruitment and stuff in a couple of months.
Okay, fair enough. The kind of firms that, I mean, help us understand the kind of firms in Canada that you'd be targeting, right? Not one, the next few.
Okay, so I worked at Deloitte. There's a Deloitte Canada here as well. Would love to work in Deloitte again. So
Fair
lovely company,
fair enough.
absolutely great culture. Would love to work there again. So that applies for probably any of the big four consulting firms,
Sure.
the MBB strategic consulting firms. All of these are great options. They have presence in Canada.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay. So consulting firms that might be building an analytics practice, at least in Canada, or already do have an analytics practice, and you could get part of, be part of them.
yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Uh, that's an interesting, choice there in itself. But is that because you already have prior business experience that you're not going for hardcore business analytics firms and considering maybe consulting firms before?
Um, I mean, I'm saying obviously because I've had a great time at Deloitte, so I'd say I would love to work there again. But then again, there are some incredible firms over here. Like first of all, big tech firms. Microsoft has a huge presence here. Accenture, Google. So all of these are
How is it
fantastic companies to
different?
work.
How is it different to work at a big tech firm in data science as compared to, let's say, a top, or top three firm, MBB, let's say, in consulting, right? How is it different working in one place or the other, or are they? I mean, are you working on similar projects just in different companies? How does it work?
Okay, so I don't have experience in a big tech firm, but what I would say, I think the experience would be very different between working in a consulting firm and working in a big tech firm. And the biggest difference would be, and one of the coolest things about working in a consulting firm is, again, if you're lucky, if you're in a good team with good people, you get the chance to work in a variety of projects spanning multiple industries, right? So even in 2 years that you work in a consulting firm, you would have worked in like 4 or 5 different industries. You get so much of exposure to different businesses. And
Sure.
you'll also gain more appreciation to the fact that analytics can drive value in each of these industries,
Sure.
right? Across all these businesses. So that's something that you gain more appreciation for, this practice. But yeah, if you're working for a big tech firm, you know that your domain is specific. You have like specific problems that you probably face. Maybe the problems that you're facing are more similar day to day than when you're working in a consulting firm where you're facing a variety of challenges for a variety of clients.
Okay.
So
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. That sounds quite logical. Okay. Well, I think I'm all out of questions, but I'm sure that prospective students will have much more to ask. So do keep in touch, Samuel, and I'm sure there's much more value that you could add in a one-on-one conversation. Wish you all the best with your program. I know it's a fast-paced one, and I certainly hope you do exceedingly well in the program. Yeah.
thanks so much. Thanks so much, Anand. Absolutely happy to help out. Happy to have any kind of conversations that students want to have. I've been a confused student myself in the past, so I know how it feels. And happy to, like have any kind of conversation, answer any kind of questions that students might have. And,
All right.
kind of credit to you for setting up this kind of a platform for students to connect with people. It's really cool. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for the kind words, Samuel. You have a great day. Right.
Yep. You too, Anand. Have a good one.